Do you believe that a child can die for a few minutes, visit heaven, and come back saying they were touched by an angel? What this girl revealed when she woke up left doctors silent and made her family cry. She described details of paradise, spoke about a presence of light, and brought a message so strong that it seems to have come straight from the spiritual world. This is a real near-death experience experienced by a 6-year-old child, an account that challenges everything you've ever heard about the afterlife, angels, and the afterlife. Prepare to have goosebumps, because this story could change the way you see existence. Are you ready to hear the truth? Luna has always been a charming child, 6 years old, light brown hair that shone in the sun, an easy smile, and an intense curiosity about everything. She lived with her parents in Boise, capital of the state of Idaho, a quiet city in the United States, surrounded by nature, mountains in the distance, and a sky that always seemed bluer than normal. It was the kind of place where people still talk to their neighbors, and children play freely in the yard, like Luna did that day. It was a Saturday afternoon. The sky was clear, the air was light, and the family was enjoying the beginning of spring. Luna ran in the yard while her mother took care of the flowers in the garden. The father was on the porch reading the newspaper. Everything seemed ordinary, routine, absolutely safe. Until, in the blink of an eye, the unexpected happened. The family had filled the small inflatable pool for Luna to cool off. It was shallow, surrounded by toys, something harmless at first glance. The mother went into the kitchen for a moment, just to get a towel. When he returned, Luna was no longer standing, playing. She was submerged, completely still. Time lost its meaning at that moment. Screams, rush. The father dropped the newspaper and ran to the girl. Her body was cold. The mother screamed for help as she tried to remember the resuscitation steps she had seen in videos on the internet. She tried, and cried. Her voice came out in a tone between desperation and pleading. The neighbor next door, who heard the commotion, ran to help and called paramedics. The ambulance arrived within minutes, although to these parents it seemed like hours. Help was immediate: CPR techniques, oxygen mask, electrodes. The team did everything meticulously, but Luna was still unresponsive. She was rushed to Boise Children's Hospital. The environment, cold and silent, contrasted with the heat of what had happened in the sunny backyard. Upon admission, the diagnosis was clear: cardiorespiratory arrest. The doctors did not hide the serious condition. For approximately 4 minutes, Luna had no noticeable vital signs, the kind of situation that leaves scars, even when it works. But no one there knew at that moment what was really going on beyond those machines, those frantic attempts to bring her back. The medical team was fighting against time. The mother, sitting on a cold metal chair in the hallway, prayed silently. His hands were shaking. "If she comes back, I promise I will never leave her alone for a second again," he repeated like a mantra. The father, silent, leaning against the wall, barely blinked. He just observed the emptiness, as if trying to understand was a way to avoid collapse. And then something happened. The monitoring beeped. The doctors looked at each other, a weak but present pulse, vital signs slowly returning. Luna had returned, but she didn't come back from the same place she left. In the first moments, while she was still sedated, her body was recovering, but her eyes were already showing something different. A distant look, as if carrying a memory too big to put into words. In the following days, the hospital became a place of new beginnings. Luna surprised professionals with her unusual serenity. She did not cry as expected after trauma. She was also not afraid, nor did she appear disoriented. On the contrary, there was a peace about her that was difficult to describe. Doctors said it could be a dissociative state, perhaps a neurological response to cardiac arrest, but the mother felt it was something more, much more. And then came the first sentences, shorts, whispered, but each word seemed to carry a weight that no adult could invent. "I saw you on your knees, Mommy." The mother's eyes widened. "When, daughter?" "When I was lying down, and everything was calm. I saw you crying and asking God not to take me." But that hadn't been said out loud. They were thoughts, a mental request made in desperation that never left the mother's lips. Luna started talking more often. He said he saw Dad with his hand on his face, that there were 3 nurses in the room, and that one of them was wearing an earring with a blue stone. Details. Details that an unconscious child could never have noticed. As the days went by, the reports became richer. She said that while the body was there, on the stretcher, there was another place. A very beautiful place. But it didn't seem like a dream. It felt more real than anything she had ever felt. The mother began to write everything down. Loose words that Luna said. Drawings I made with colored pencils. Circles of light. Glowing paths. Shapes that resembled wings. And a constant presence she called the Man of Light. The hospital became a point of attention. Some doctors avoided talking about what Luna said. Others listened in silence. Some were moved but did not comment. After all, how can we explain what goes beyond exams and clinical protocols? The local media even reached out to the family, but the parents preferred silence. They didn't want exposure. They just wanted to understand. And Luna continued, effortless, without intention, just talking naturally as if you were still there. Some people die for minutes and come back with revelations that transform everything. If you feel that there is something beyond life, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This spiritual journey may be exactly what your soul has been waiting for. And get ready, because what Luna started to tell you later, little by little, goes far beyond what you can expect from a child. Luna remained silent. The body, still fragile, seemed too light on that white hospital bed. The devices, emitting constant beeps, gave rhythm to that waiting environment. But inside, something far beyond medicine was unfolding. It was as if a story was being written in two places at once, on Earth and on another plane that most of us can't see. Little by little, as she recovered physically, Luna began to share what she experienced, but not in the way an adult would share something she learned. She spoke with the innocence of someone who has no doubt, with the clarity of someone who really saw, not dreamed. And that's what was most impressive. The certainty in each sentence, the serene conviction in his eyes. She said in a low, soft voice that the moment everything went dark, she felt as if she were coming out of herself. He said it was like taking off a tight coat, as if something inside her gently released itself and began to rise. It didn't hurt, he said. It was light. I just floated. And then Luna described what she saw. He said he looked down and saw his own body lying down, surrounded by adults who were running and screaming. He recognized his mother crying next to him and even pointed to the clothes she was wearing that day. A blue sweatshirt with a small stain on the sleeve, a stain that his mother didn't even remember existed until then. She described the doctors, the sounds, the room, the lights. He said everything seemed a little blurry, like when you're in the water and looking out. But at the same time, everything made more sense. Every movement, every emotion, even thoughts seemed audible to her. It was like I had access to something bigger. And then everything changed. Luna said as a light appeared, a light that didn't come from lamps or the sun. It was a living light. It was white, but it didn't hurt the eyes. It was hot, but it didn't burn. It was soft, but also very strong, he explained with his small hands, trying to draw what was missing in the words. This light began to surround her, as if it were a hug made of peace. And as he let himself go, he felt the fear disappear. It was as if I had never cried in my life, she once told the nurse, who became emotional and left the room for a few minutes. Luna felt like she was being taken somewhere, but she didn't remember walking. It was as if time didn't exist there, as if everything was now, an eternal now. And then she saw him. In the midst of the light, a presence appeared. At first it was just a silhouette, tall, serene, enveloped in a golden glow that seemed to pulse in gentle waves. As he got closer, the figure took shape. It wasn't like an ordinary person. It didn't exactly have a face, but there were eyes, and they were not made of color or matter. They were made of feeling. Luna said that when she looked into those eyes, she felt everything at once: security, love, truth, and an immense longing for something she didn't even know she had forgotten. She didn't need to ask who it was. She knew. He was an angel, he said. I felt it. No doubt. No hesitation. She described the presence as being both majestic and welcoming. He said he looked like he was made of light, but he wasn't just light. There was something inside him, something that wasn't afraid. On the contrary, it was the kind of presence you never want to leave. The angel did not speak with his mouth, according to Luna. The words reached her without sound. It was like thinking together, as if thoughts were given in the form of feelings. She said that everything he transmitted was filled with love, a love so big that it couldn't fit in her body, a love that tightened the chest, but in a good way, a love that made everything she had ever felt before seem small. He reached out his hand, a fingerless hand but still a hand, and touched the center of her chest. At that moment, Luna felt something that she tried to explain later in a few words. I remembered who I was. This phrase was repeated more than once. She couldn't explain what exactly she remembered or how she knew it, but she said that at that moment, everything made sense, as if my entire life, even though it was so short up until then, had been just a piece of a bigger story. A story she already knew, but had forgotten. She said that when she was touched, she felt a wave of light enter her. It didn't hurt. It was like being filled from the inside, as if it were being done again, only this time with something different, something eternal. This moment lasted, according to her, a time that doesn't have time. I couldn't tell if it was seconds, minutes, or a lifetime. What Luna said most firmly was that she didn't want it to end. She wanted to stay. But it wasn't her who decided. Luna shut up when she got to that point. He looked at the floor, then to the ceiling, as if searching for the right words, as if he was afraid to tell the rest, or was just respecting the weight of what he experienced. The mother wrote everything down, every word, every break. The father, more restrained, listened from afar with moist eyes. They didn't know what was more difficult, understanding what Luna was saying, or accepting that all of that really could be true. While the doctors talked about neurological recovery, the girl said she was floating between worlds. As the nurses took vital signs, she spoke of a light that was made of love, and while the hospital returned to its routine, Luna continued to remember something that perhaps wasn't from this world. It is at this point in the story that the stories gain depth. This is where a child's narrative begins to touch on something that many adults spend their lives trying to understand. And stay with me, because what came after, what Luna started to feel, see, and understand, transforms this story into something even deeper. And that's what we're going to explore next. Luna hesitated when trying to explain what happened after the angel's touch. She said it was difficult to find the right words for what she felt, not because it was confusing, but because it was too big. It's like trying to put heaven into a small box, she once told her mother, who just listened silently with teary eyes and shaking hands. After that touch on her chest, that moment when she said she remembered who she was, Luna felt like she was somewhere else. Not floating over the body as before. Now it was different. She no longer saw the doctors, the equipment, the hospital room. She was in another space, a place that had no walls, no floor, no ceiling, and yet it wasn't empty. It was a space that felt alive. She described the environment as made of liquid light. There was glow all around, but no point of origin. The light came from everything, and that light had colors that don't exist here. It was as if the rainbow had multiplied into 1,000 colors that we had never seen before, said Luna. The words always seemed to fall short of what she was trying to convey, and maybe they were. But the most striking thing was not the place. It was the presence. The angel remained there, close but not like before. Now he seemed taller, brighter, as if he had grown with his surroundings. Luna didn't see wings, but said she felt like he could fly without having to move. He looked at her without a fixed expression, but with such an intense feeling that she couldn't look away. She said that at that moment there was no speech, but there was understanding, a type of deep communication which took place within the mind and heart at the same time. As if thoughts were accompanied by emotions, images, and sounds, all mixed into a single spiritual language. It was at that moment that Luna received what she called the message, a moment when, even without understanding exactly how, she felt that something was being entrusted to her, something that needed to be remembered. And this memory, according to her, was not just hers. It belonged to all of us. She said that the angel looked at her and, without moving his lips, felt such a strong feeling that her entire body got goosebumps. She said she understood everything as if it were a phrase that echoed inside her. You need to go back. It's not finished yet. There are things that need to be said. The mother heard this and wrote it down word for word. The father, who until then had been listening with disbelief, began to pay more attention. Luna then continued. She said that at that moment something opened next to the angel. It was like a great veil pulling back, revealing images. She called it floating visions. He said he saw people, many, walking in a hurry, running, with expressionless faces. Some talked on the phone, others fiddled with bright screens, but no one looked at each other. Nobody listened. And that's when she said something that chilled her mother's spine. "He told me that God is sad about what we are doing." These words were spoken calmly but with impressive force. They weren't words thrown around at random. They were heavy, filled with a meaning that seemed to come from far away, Sad, because people have forgotten who they are. Sad because they are fighting over small things. Sad because they hear but they don't listen. These were the phrases that Luna said, without knowing that they carried a depth that surpasses any age, any religion, any logical explanation. She said she saw lonely children, adults screaming without realizing it, mothers crying alone. He said he felt like there was a lot of pain in the world, and that pain was spreading like dark smoke, but no one seemed to notice. But he also said that the angel showed something else. He said he saw points of light coming on in dark places. He said there were people with bright hearts, trying to change things. He said that every good thought was like a star appearing in the darkness, and that this light helped other people remember who they were. It was at that moment that she looked at her mother and said, "Mom, he told me that every time someone truly loves, the sky gets brighter." This phrase kept echoing for days. The mother couldn't stop repeating it in her mind. The father began to write it down on papers that he spread around the house. Luna continued with her reports. He said that all this was not a dream, that it wasn't an invention, that it was as if she had been taken to a place where the truth was visible, a place where questions don't need to be asked, because the answers are already in the air. She further described that the angel showed her something like a book made of light. He said it was not a book of pages, but of feelings, and that when she touched him, she felt like she understood everything about herself. She said she saw scenes from her own life, even things she didn't remember, like when she was very little and barely knew how to walk. He said he saw the faces of people he knew, and also of others he had not yet met. She spoke of a moment when she felt like crying, not from sadness but from something I couldn't explain, an emotion that mixed longing, gratitude, and love. She said the angel surrounded her with light again and said, with the same tone she had felt before, "You're important to the story. Everyone is." With each new memory, the mother became more emotional. The father, once skeptical, was now looking for books about near-death experiences. The medical team, some of it at least, started to enter the room with a different look. There was something there that went beyond physical recovery. Luna didn't say everything at once. The sentences came little by little, as if she was rearranging what she saw, and always with the same tranquility, never forcing, never trying to prove, just telling, like someone describing something they experienced, and that made all the difference. Have you ever had the feeling that certain words don't come from the speaker, but from somewhere above? Have you ever felt like someone told you something simple, but that carried a deep, almost divine truth? There are things that science cannot explain, but the heart recognizes immediately. When we feel something bigger touch us, it's as if a forgotten part of the soul awakens. It's no coincidence that I'm here listening to this story. There is a reason, a calling, an invisible connection that unites those who have already perceived the signs of the invisible. Comment: I also believe in light. Stay with me because there's something even more impressive that Luna began to reveal in the following days, and it forever changed the way her family sees the world around them. The hospital room was silent, as if the atmosphere itself was holding its breath. The devices continued with their rhythmic sounds. The monitors flashed in green and blue tones, but at that moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Luna. She had woken up. Gently, her eyelashes fluttered, and her eyelids slowly opened. There was no expression of pain, there was no confusion. There was peace, a calm so deep that for a second, her mother thought she was still dreaming. But then Luna slightly moved her head. His eyes, large and dark, roamed the ceiling as if searching for something that was there, and at the same time, far away. The doctor monitoring his recovery remained motionless. He who had already witnessed patients returning in critical situations had never seen anything like this. Her awakening was not abrupt. There was no scare, no groan, no anxiety. It was as if I had woken up at home after a long journey. His mother held his hand tightly but with an obvious tremor. "Daughter, do you listen to me? Are you here with Mum?" he whispered. Luna then turned to face her, and in a low voice, yet almost inaudible, said something that no one expected. "I came back, but I still remember." The sentence echoed like thunder inside the mother's heart. What did she mean by that? What did you remember? It was the first thing she said when she woke up. It wasn't "Mommy" or "Where am I" or "I'm thirsty." It was something profound, something that implied that Luna wasn't just coming back from sleep, but from somewhere else. The doctor tried to remain calm but couldn't help but take immediate notes. Protocols demanded it, but it was clear in his eyes. He was also shaken. For the next few minutes, Luna was silent. Their eyes were fixed on the ceiling, as if they still saw what no one else could see. Until she released another sentence, this time even more disturbing for the parents. "The light is still here, but now it's quiet." The nurse who was in the room stopped in the middle of what she was doing. She was an experienced woman, used to dealing with terminally ill patients with children in critical condition, but that sentence made her body shudder. Later, she would confide that she had never felt something so strong inside a hospital. In the following days, Luna would begin to regain her movements, energy, and voice. But contrary to what was expected, she did not act like a child who narrowly escaped death. There were no traces of trauma in his gestures, no fear of being alone. She didn't cry at night, nor did she ask if she would play in the garden again. What she did was observe, silently, sincerely. During routine exams, doctors began to notice something even more unusual. Luna reacted accurately to stimuli, even in moments of light sedation. In a neurological exam, while monitoring his brain activity, the team was surprised by the unusual pattern in the waves recorded. There was a synchrony between areas of the brain that do not normally operate together in children their age. Some considered it a coincidence, others an unusual phenomenon of neuroplasticity, but no one could explain it for sure. But what was most impressive was what Luna said. During a conversation with the nurse, she pointed to the room window and said calmly, "The girl who shines passed by yesterday." She was smiling but sad inside. The nurse froze. The detail is that the night before she had cried in the hallway after receiving news about her mother's health. Nobody had seen it. She had kept everything silent. How did Luna know? How did she realize this if she was sleeping the whole time? The parents began to record everything their daughter said, not out of sensationalism, but because they were increasingly convinced that something extraordinary was happening. And with each new day, more details emerged that went far beyond the imagination of a 6-year-old child. One cold morning, while eating soup on her mother's lap, Luna fixed her eyes on one of the nurses who was rushing through the hallway and whispered, "She's going to receive good news, her baby is coming." The mother didn't understand. He thought it was imagination. But days later, the same nurse, visibly emotional, said she had discovered she was pregnant after years of failed attempts. Nobody knew, neither did she until then, and Luna already knew. These events began to repeat themselves more frequently. Little phrases, whispers, insights that seemed to come from a different place. Luna said that since she returned, some things shined around people, and when those lights changed color, she felt their hearts. But perhaps the most impressive episode, up to that point, was what happened during the visit of a volunteer from the hospital chaplaincy. A kind, middle-aged woman who used to stop by children's rooms, bringing messages of faith and offering prayers. When she entered, she smiled and asked Luna, "Would you like me to pray with you?" Luna looked at her for a few seconds and then said, "You've already spoken to him today, and he said he heard you." The woman lost her balance, had to sit down. He was silent for almost a minute, unable to respond. Later, he told his parents that he had said a silent prayer moments before entering that room, asking for a sign that his mission there still made sense. And a 6-year-old child responded, without ever having spoken to her before. These details began to spread among hospital staff, and although many maintained a professional posture, it was not uncommon to see discreet and lingering glances at Luna, as if they expected to hear something unexpected at any moment. Some said there was a different energy in that room. Others were just moved in silence. Luna continued to recover. His body gained strength, but his gaze remained distant, not in the sense of disconnection, but as someone who sees beyond what human eyes can reach. She played with dolls, yes, but I also spent long minutes looking out the window, and every now and then he would release phrases that no one knew where they came from, but that seemed to be loaded with a greater meaning. Days passed, and Luna continued to recover. Her vital signs stabilized, clinical examinations were within normal limits, and for the medical team, everything indicated that she was out of danger. But what couldn't be measured by the devices What didn't fit into the charts or medical reports was precisely what caught the most attention. Luna had come back different. She was no longer just the smiling girl from Boise, full of energy and imagination. Something about her had changed. It was not a sudden change, nor visible to those who knew her superficially. It was a subtle but profound transformation, a new shine in the eyes, an unshakable serenity, a way of observing the world as if you were seeing everything for the first time, or as if you had returned from a place where everything was different, clearer, more true. Luna started talking about the sky with a naturalness that was impressive, not like those who heard about him in stories or cartoons, but like those who lived there. That was what left his parents speechless. She said things like, "There's no fear there. There we can feel everything the other feels, but without getting hurt." Or, "Time doesn't pass there, it just stays." And one that the mother never forgot. "Love, there is something you can see. It comes out of people like a color." She did not speak with pretension, nor did she seek attention. He simply said these phrases during moments of the day, as if he were sharing something common, like a holiday souvenir. And it was in these little speeches that the parents realized how much Luna was not just recovering physically, she was in another state of consciousness. The games have also changed. Luna had always been a creative child, but now she was drawing scenes that didn't look like anything she had seen. He made images of golden fields, rivers of light, figures with serene faces and shining eyes. And the most curious thing, next to these figures, she always placed small floating dots, as if they were small moving stars. When her mother asked what they were, she replied, "They are good thoughts, there they fly." Her behavior towards people also changed. Before, she was shy around strangers, but now she approached them with a kind of sensitivity that attracted attention. One morning at the hospital, he approached a boy who was crying, and without saying anything, he just hugged him. The boy stopped crying. His mother, who was distressed, didn't understand. Luna didn't know him. Nobody had asked him to do that, but she knew. She felt it. This started to happen again. Luna could see when someone was sad, even if they were smiling. He knew when someone was scared, even without showing it. Sometimes he would enter a patient's room, sit next to him for a few minutes and leave. And in the corridors, stories began to circulate that girl had something special. There were nights when she would wake up and call her mother, but it wasn't because of nightmares. She said she dreamed of the house of light, the stairs that sing, or the man who shines. Names she used to describe heaven, the spiritual path, and the angel who accompanied her, NDE. And on those nights, he said he heard phrases that he wrote down with the help of his parents. Some of them left everyone silent. "Pain on earth is a request for light. Good hearts shine brightest when they are still. Heaven comes closer when someone forgives themselves." They were simple phrases but loaded with symbolism that no adult could ignore. Once, during lunch at home, Luna stopped eating, looked at the window and said, "Mommy, now I remember. There we don't speak with words, we speak with our soul." And after that he went back to eating, as if he had said something ordinary. What caught our attention, in addition to the depth of her speeches, was the way she no longer seemed to feel limited by time. Luna said things like, "I still remember things that will happen," or "I've met people I haven't seen yet." When her parents asked her what she meant by that, she just smiled. It was as if he didn't know how to explain it in words, or as if he knew it wasn't the right time to explain. Her dreams also began to intensify. On several occasions, he woke up with ready-made drawings in his mind, images that he asked to reproduce as soon as he got up. Once, he drew a place full of golden domes, with figures that moved silently, exchanging lights with each other. He said it was a city of souls, where everyone knows everything about everyone, but no one judges anyone. Another drawing showed a path made of dots of light, where people walked slowly as if they were returning home. These drawings began to be organized by the mother, who kept each one as a precious record, not just because of their beauty, but because many of them carried symbols, shapes, and structures that seemed to repeat themselves, as if they were recurring memories of the same spiritual dimension. There was also the moment when Luna started talking about sounds that heal. One late afternoon, he said that he listened to very soft music while he slept, and that this music put the sad parts of his body in order. The mother didn't understand, but that same night, Luna slept peacefully after days of mild insomnia. And the next day she woke up saying she had received a gift from light. These phrases began to appear frequently, always spontaneous, always enveloped in a strange calm for such a young child. Even after being discharged back home, Luna maintained this new behavior. I spent long minutes looking at the sky or at the trees. He said that everything now seemed brighter inside. She seemed to see an invisible layer of reality, as if the near-death experience had opened up a new way of perceiving the world in her. Parents began to question the possibility of spiritual gifts. They had not encouraged any specific doctrine. They never exposed their daughter to content about near-death experiences, nor did they talk about angels or spiritual visions frequently. But now, they had a girl in the house who spoke about all of this as if she had experienced every detail. Luna's transformation wasn't just noticeable, it was profound, and she herself said that she didn't feel the same. In a conversation with her grandmother, who came to visit her after being discharged from the hospital, she said naturally, "I'm still Luna, but now I'm also another part of myself that I had forgotten." And he added, pointing to his own chest, "This part here was sleeping. Now it's awake. Stay with me." Because what Luna still has to say could open up a new way of seeing life, time, and everything we think we already understand. Have you ever imagined what you would do if your son, your daughter, just 6 years old, came back to life after a cardiac arrest and started talking about the sky so naturally as if he had been there for days? How would you react if that same child described feelings, visions, and presences that you, an adult with decades of life, never dared to even imagine? What's more, if she spoke with a lightness that made you feel like she was the one teaching you about existence? This is the reality that Luna's mother faces every day, a mix of gratitude, admiration, and deep questioning. Because when a child comes back from death talking about light, love, invisible signs, and greater consciousness, and speaks like someone who experienced it all with their own eyes, it becomes impossible to continue seeing life in the same way. What if this had happened to you? If your child came back with messages that don't seem to belong to this world, words that you didn't learn anywhere, but that touch the soul of those who hear it as if they were truths that were dormant within us? What if, instead of doubting, you simply felt like everything made sense? Because that's the point many people get to when they hear stories like Luna's. It's not about proving anymore. It's not about convincing. It's about feeling. And recognize that somewhere within us, these truths were already stored. Luna spoke about the light as if she were talking about her own home. She spoke of love as if she could see it passing through walls, and he spoke of human pain as someone who understands it with compassion, not with fear. And there is no way to hear these words without asking yourself, what have we stopped seeing over time? At what point did we start living with our eyes closed to the invisible? How many times in the midst of your rush have you felt a presence, an intuition, a feeling that someone or something from heaven was trying to tell you something, a dream that seemed more real than the next day, an unexplained shiver in the middle of a conversation, an unexpected thought at the exact moment you needed direction? Has it ever happened to you? These little signs, these moments when reality seems to open up a little to let the mystery in, they are not random. Some say they are just brain impressions, defense mechanisms, or coincidences. But what if there are more than that? What if they are touches from beyond? Reminders of what we forgot, signs that we are surrounded by something that we cannot see, but that we feel intensely. Luna's story touches precisely on this point. She was not trained to see the world with spiritual eyes. She knew neither doctrines nor theological discourses, but she came back from death speaking like a messenger, not of dogmas, but of emotional truths, universal feelings, like love, like forgiveness, like the presence of light even on the darkest days. And perhaps that's why so many reports of near-death experiences have such an impact on people, because they don't speak with reason, they speak to the soul. These are testimonies that, even without a scientific explanation, make us stop, breathe, and feel that there is something beyond, something bigger, something that doesn't fit into words but pulsates in silence deep within our existence. And when a child says that heaven comes closer when we forgive someone, that's not just cute, it's true. And the recognized truth awakens. Stir. It makes the heart beat differently. Maybe that's why you're still here, watching, following this story with attentive eyes and a sensitive chest. Maybe something inside you is saying, I felt this too. Or, I needed to hear that now. And if that's the case, then no, you are not alone. There's something about near-death experience stories that connects us, that unites us in an ancestral memory that we came from somewhere, and that, at some point, we will return there. But until that happens, we are here, living, forgetting, remembering, and every now and then being touched by testimonies like Luna's, which ignite the spark of eternity in us again. Because deep down, every human being has silent questions. What happens after death? Is there a purpose? Why do we miss something we've never seen? And experiences like Luna's don't provide an exact answer, but to point out, to open a breach in reality, to make us look again with more sensitivity. And if you've ever lost someone and at some point you felt like that person was still there, watching over you, caring for you in some way, maybe this is the confirmation your heart was waiting for. You don't need proof. Just remember the peace you felt at that time. That peace that no one saw, but that you know was there. That light that shone inside you for no reason, or for all the reasons in the world. This story is not just about a child. It's about all of us, about what we forgot, about what is yet to come, and about what, even invisible, touches us every day. Some stories don't arrive by chance. They touch, awaken, and remind us that we are not alone. Comment: I also feel like we are not alone. Your words could be the sign someone needs right now. Getting here and feeling something different while listening to this story doesn't happen by chance. When the light touches, the soul recognizes. That soft voice that speaks inside, that silences your thoughts and warms your chest, is not invention. It is presence. It could have been the voice of God calling you back to something that never stopped being there. Something spoke to you as you listened to this story. It wasn't by chance. When the soul recognizes the truth, the heart responds first. That voice that touched you could be the beginning of something bigger. Subscribe to the channel now and leave your like. More than following stories, it's about walking together on a journey of faith, signs of the invisible and discoveries that reason cannot explain. Now, get ready. What comes next carries something that many ignore, but few can forget after hearing it. A new story, real and deeply striking, that can turn everything you believe upside down. Click on the video that is now appearing on your screen and feel for yourself what you can't explain. Just live.